Today we're talking about what AI agents actually do to the document layer for private lending, three workflows specifically: appraisal extraction, multi-investor loan onboarding, and loan tape population. These three sit at the top of an offshore extraction line operation that runs about $1 million plus a year. This is going to be a demo heavy presentation, so I'm going to rip through some of these slides. Joining me today is Pedram. He's going to give you 3 live demos with real files, citation-linked outputs. He builds agents directly with our private lending customers, so he's the person to hear from on how this actually works under the hood. Thank you for joining, Pedram. Quick walkthrough on the agenda. We're going to start with a really fast overview on Kalena. We're going to talk briefly about why pure extraction tools or point solutions fall short for lending ops. We're going to spend the bulk of our time on demos and then provide you with some anonymized customer results and a quick ROI walkthrough. I'll be jumping in with questions that I know a lot of you have while Pedram gives the demo. So quick context for those of us that are not familiar with Kalena. We build AI agents for document-heavy workflows. We work with commercial real estate. We work with insurance. We work with private lending, mortgage servicing. You can see some of our customers on the screen here. And the pattern across all of it is the same. Documents come in and structured data needs to come out. There's a chain of human review and offshore work in between, and our AI agents collapse that chain. Today's session is calibrated for private lending. So DSCR shops, RTL shops, business purpose lenders. The 3 workflows you see on the screen are the 3 demos that Pedram is going to do live. So Pedram, I mentioned you work directly with the lenders running these workflows. What's the one thing you want this audience to know about how the agents actually work before we hop into the demos?
Yeah, absolutely. So, agents, it's kind of an umbrella term for the workflow automations using the LLM models. Now, a lot of the common workflows that I see for different lenders is spending time searching for information and manually extracting that information. So it's a lot of grunt work, a lot of legwork that has to be done manually. What the agents do, or what Kalena agent does, is basically takes away the search and lets you review the extracted material. You'll have citations, you'll have direct access to the document, where the information is coming from, so that you can quickly cross-reference and check and see basically verify the information that is being extracted. And this all happens automatically. So from search to review.
Perfect, thank you. I mentioned we're going to go over one thing real quickly here, and that's the problem with pure extraction tools. So I know a lot of you have probably already evaluated AI tools for extraction. You probably ran a pilot last year, and some of you probably got burned. So let's talk about why those tools haven't worked out, or why Claude hasn't worked out, or ChatGPT. The problem with point solutions or extraction tools is that they're built around their template. So you feed them a PDF, they pull the text into their structure. Now that's great for one-off use cases, but you have consistent workflows that are always running. It doesn't solve the overall lending operations problem. It's an entire chain, as I mentioned before. Appraisal feeds loan onboarding feeds the loan tape feeds the investor submission. If your solution only solves one link, then the line item is barely moved and you haven't really done much work at all. So Pedram, you deal with this objection from lenders in a lot of your conversations. So what's the actual trade-off that they're making when they use a template forcing tool, as I like to call it, or a point solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, point solution, you're going to end up buying multiple softwares to cover multiple workflows. That's really the give here. And if you're looking at any lender's workflow or the pipeline, really, you have multiple bottlenecks that need to be addressed by its own specific or bespoke solution. And this is the beauty of Kalena. You have a process agnostic software that you can build different workflows inside, maybe chain them together. But in a sense, Kalena fits right into the lender's workflow, and we can address many, many bottlenecks within the same platform instead of you going and purchasing multiple softwares. That's maybe the biggest positive here.
Yeah, and what about, Claude's really hot right now. I use it a ton in my just day-to-day work. So what about people in loan operations, I would say, well, I could just build a skill in Claude, or I could build a plugin in Claude that handles this. What's the downside there?
You know, Claude is a great tool. We use it as well internally, but it's really meant for a specific task or a group tasks, and it's really good for small businesses. But when it comes to having a production line or a conveyor belt of compliance and data extraction and being able to go back and forth between the information, Claude really isn't meant for that. Again, for one-off tasks, maybe a couple times a week or per month might be a good tool. But when it comes to having a complete overview on what's being pulled from your documents, again, we're talking about appraisal reports. If you're getting the as-is value, if you're not sure if the extraction looks good or not, you can't read. You have to go back to the document. You have to find that value. You have to put it against what the LLM has provided. Whereas Colina really allows you to see those connections or the citations by bulk or individual. It's really meant for high volume, high frequency workflows that you need to be super, super precise. So the precision here is the difference.
Awesome. Thank you. That was much better than the answer I would have given. Last thing, just a quick orientation before we jump into the demos here. So 3 columns. Inputs on the left, that's anything in your loan ops inbox. That's appraisals, 1004s, 1073s. I won't read them all because you can read as well. The biggest thing I want to draw your attention to is the size of the loan files. We can pull in 300 files that are 1,500 pages and run our agents on those. You'll run into context issues to the point about Claude or ChatGPT. We know Claude has a huge bigger context window than some of the other LLMs, but it's still not big enough to handle some of the large loan packages that you all get. Middle column is where the agents work. We extract every field with citations. We validate against your ground truth. We cross-reference values across documents, which is a big thing. Pedram, anything you'd add on the cross-reference step before we hop in?
I mean, the cross-referencing is, typically passing information to different steps of your workflow, which is super critical. And this is something that, again, the other tools aren't capable of doing. And our platform not only cross-references multiple data points across multiple documents, it can also bundle them and pass them into the next stage of the workflow. So this is a very distinct feature that Colina offers.
And along with that, we'll be checking all of the information against the investor matrices that you have that you need to comply with at the same time. So all of this is happening all at once instead of one task and then one task and then one task. It's all happening together. The output that you get is a populated loan tape, your multi-investor loan onboarding report, and anomaly report, and that can all be pushed into whatever tool that you need it in, wherever your capital markets team works. We can support. So 3 demos coming up: appraisal, loan onboarding, loan tape. Pedram, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank God, because I had so many issues sharing. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hopefully I don't get I don't jinx it and mine shows up well. So let me go ahead, share my screen, and let's jump into the demo. So the first thing that I want to focus on is the appraisal report or the appraisal data extraction agent. What you're looking at is an agent that has processed about 4 appraisal reports. And if I need to add additional reports to it, I can just grab these documents, drag, drop, and ask them to process them separately. That's how simple it is. Can't really do that with other tools right now, but in parallel, we can have multiple reports being extracted. That's a very positive or it's a good feature that we have. Now, on a previously processed, let's say, report, you're just going to put it in front of you and show you what we have. So on the left side, I have the report itself, 189 pages long. We don't really come across context window issues, meaning that the volume of data that the agent is consuming isn't an issue here, whereas the other tools typically fall short when it comes to digesting a 200-page document. So 189 pages are being processed here. The entire workflow on the right side is laid out. We have a couple of extractions. We look at the property information. We look at the borrower and ownership detail. property characteristics, and a little bit of calculations as well. We're not just extracting, we have the acreage calculation and comp proximity checks, which are crucial in any report extraction. And this workflow is currently happening or being put up against that 4 documents that I dropped all at the same time. Now,
And this is you mentioned this is a finished task with how many pages? 189. How long, since it's already completed, how long did it take? Can you tell us that?
well, the platform, let's take it from the horse's mouth. It's 1 minute for this extraction. Pretty straightforward. Again, a lot of pages here are scanned pages, so it had to pull up the OCR technology, optical character recognition technologies, and process those. So all in all, 60 seconds to get 200 pages processed. Now, I'm very excited. If you look into the extractions, let me bring you back here. Let's just click on the subject property identification. You can see that these fields, meaning the property address, state, zip code, country, county, APN, and so on and so forth, these are not hard coded. These are all made by myself. If your process looks slightly different or completely different, we built the agents from the ground up. You have the opportunity to add more fields here if you need to extract them. So no worries. This can be 20 fields instead of the 10 that you see on the screen. But let's imagine this is your way of doing things and you're looking for the property address and it's extracted. Very nice. How do I make sure that this address is actually on the document? Quick way to verify that is to click on the citations on the right side. So I have a button that I can click on. It will drag the document down to the specific page where the information is coming from. And also I can kind of invoke a beacon on the document itself that highlights the exact information and where it came from. So this is happening pretty much for any prompt and any extraction that you see. Here's the property address. I have the legal description right here, and pretty much anything that comes out of that extraction. Maybe pause here, see if there are any questions. No? Now, I can go down to the list here. The borrower and the ownership detail is being extracted. One thing that you'll see, the platform doesn't produce data out of the blue. It's either extracting the data or not. If it doesn't exist, it's not going to generate random information. That's another thing that you can't really rely on other tools. We have a lot of fail safes to make sure we don't produce hallucinated data. Here, the platform couldn't find the sales price. And in order to understand what the thought process was behind this extraction and basically to look under the hood, we usually go down to the reasoning block, which gives us a little bit of insight in what happened in this extraction run, or at least for this borrower and ownership detail extraction. This is how we gear the agent or the prompts towards where exactly we want to extract the data. But that's how we work with the platform. And also the last box here, which is what we call the instruction box, is where I personally wrote down all this text here and given it the directions that I was looking for. But this is mainly the agent setup. And if I come back here, I can see that each step is being processed simultaneously, and some steps even feed into each other. So the property characteristics that has some of the acreage and the lot size and so on and so forth is being fed into the acreage calculation, and the acreage calculation is using that information to produce that one number, the acreage calculation that we were looking for. Also, the full calculation and basically the work of the agent is available again in the reasoning block.
So it's much more than just, extracting. You're actually like executing tasks. You're extracting the information and then doing something else with the extraction. So it's like one on top of the other. So not just a point solution that uses OCR to pull information out. You can actually run a whole workflow with this.
Exactly. The logic or the conditions or any additional task other than extraction is available here. It's mainly, natural language. If you ask it to, you know, uh, um, give us a philosophical output, it will do it. So we're not limited to anything as it, comes down to extraction. Now, just a little sneak peek. This kind of workflow seems a little bit more flat or straightforward, and it's just the nature of appraisal extractions that are very easy to build. We've had other cases that the workflow looks absolutely more complex and more intermingled in a sense that certain prompts feed into other prompts, and those have to be, again, processed by another prompt, and so on and so forth. And it comes down to maybe a narrative and findings. This is a loan file compliance testing that we do for community banks. So again, workflows come in different sizes and shapes. We can take care of all of them. We're not limited to one or two workflows. Now, I want to make another pause here just to see if there are any questions. No questions so far. Wanted to wrap up the appraisal data extraction by kind of connecting it to the loan tape population. Again, different lenders, different entities do this loan tape population step differently. But let's imagine that we want the appraisal data extraction to directly feed into our loan tape. A lot of the loan tapes that I've seen so far, typically they come in an Excel document. You can simply just count one loan as one row on that Excel document. And what I did was I connected that Excel document to the agent directly so that instead of me grabbing all these extractions, basically, what you produce will look something like this. But it would be great if the information automatically flows into the loan tape without me having to key in the data. And this is something that I'm going to use this as a segue to just show you how easy it is. So I've already attached a template or my loan tape template to the agent. And all these appraisals that I've dropped onto the agents are also visible in a what we call runs view, basically an aggregate view for everything that the agent has done so far. Now, it would be nice to have this information sitting in an Excel sheet. And if I click on download here, it will give me a loan template or loan tape template that I've already have it downloaded here. So these are the 4 that I initially dropped in. And if I zoom in, you can see I can just basically have them categorized by loan number and then run through the entire information that was extracted. But now you have them stacked on top of each other in a loan tape ready to be further processed, maybe push down the pipeline to another department and so on and so forth. But this is how we mix the 2 steps, meaning loan tape population and appraisal reports.
And that's what we mentioned earlier, that what the point solutions or the pure extraction tools can't do. They can't give it to you in your template. Like Pedram put his own template in there. If you have your own template, you can put that in the output field, and as you download, it populates directly into your own template. And that's something that a lot of these other solutions you may have tried and failed with cannot do. Sky, yes, there will be a summary of this call after. You'll get the full recording, and you'll get the slide deck sent to you a little later today. Back to you, Pedram.
Perfect. And the point that I'm trying to highlight here is that the software is really customizable. We use your templates, we use your workflow to get inspired and build these agents. We typically sit down with each and every client and understand their workflow in order to make something really bespoke. So don't worry about using our template. This is just for the demo purposes. Moving on to yes, Connor.
No, I was going to say let's see the next one. So moving on.
So moving on to the topic of loan onboarding, or we would kind of group them in underwriting, onboarding, loan review. Any way you can describe going through a loan package and making sure this loan is good or not. That's basically what the workflow is. Now over here, we have an agent that is meant to underwrite DSCR loans, long-term loans. And what we're doing here is to simplify it. Imagine a person receives a bundle of files, a whole loan package, and their job is to go down a checklist, basically, look for this information, look for that information, and jump into the loan package, find that information, make sure it exists, or log it somewhere, and on to the next check, on to the next control, and all the way down till you finish that checklist. You might also have a guideline attached to that checklist. Maybe the checklist is just referring to a matrix within a guideline. So that's a double lookup that a person has to do. Typically, it takes teams a lot of time to do this simple yet long task. And we have automated this whole process. Again, having access to all the citation features that we have, the reasoning features that we have, the side-by-side views that we have. This is what we did. We basically fed the agent an entire loan package. And I can see how many files I have here. So I have, all the way from the contract, the funding documents, the OA, the articles, the loan application, and all the way down to, the REFI takeout letter. This is all being fed to the agent as just one task. And I have two prompts here. One prompt's job is to grab that checklist, and let me show you the instructions. This is the checklist that I gave the prompt, and just basically item by item, look at the control, look at the loan package, and give me, a pass or fail or not applicable. Give me a little bit of notes, tell me what the issue is, and just finish this whole checklist. Also, I've attached what I call a DSCR underwriting guideline to the prompt so that it pretty much has anything that it needs. It can look up the information both on the documents and go back and check. And the cross-referencing that we brought up earlier in the call, this is exactly where it happens. It goes into the guideline, it looks at the instruction and looks at the loan package and just makes up its mind. But if I go back up, now I have 113 checks written in a table with the results that, are they, positive, negative? What is the reasoning? What's the evidence snippet? And this is, again, built by myself. The entire table, I went inside and say, hey, I'm looking for a reasoning column. I'm looking for an evidence snippet column. If you're looking for additional columns, we'll just add it to the agents. But all in all, it produced this report. And I said, hey, I don't have time to go over 113 points. Why not come and just downstream this information into another prompt that just gives me, the old-fashioned, the new way of summarizing things. Everybody summarizes things using LLMs, and this is what I'm doing here. I'm gonna say, hey, 113 points, just quickly take a look at them. Tell me what's going on. And it says, here's the executive summary. Here's the guideline compliance. This is what happened with the guideline and the documents that you have. Some critical missing files right here is just, quickly letting me know what's missing and discrepancies. And at the end, I'll give you a final recommendation of whether or not to move forward with this loan package if you're onboarding or if you're underwriting.
And you know what I'm going to ask? 113 checks plus reasoning and evaluation on those checks, and then a summarization. That's a lot of work. It would probably take a couple hours just to do the checks. And that's even before putting your reasoning and evidence in there. So the question I always ask, how long did this one take for your 113 checks plus summarization? 5 minutes.
I'm proud it's 5 minutes. Yes. For this whole loan package. We're looking at maybe 300 to 400 pages worth of, documented data. And again, we've had cases that they were underwriting a loan package against 5 or 6 different guidelines. And this could all happen within the same agent. And you will know the outcome within a couple of minutes.
And then, as we mentioned earlier, and Pedram showed, it can be populated directly into your template, directly into your tool, wherever you need it. So this whole process that can take 90 minutes to 2 hours for 113 checks, just based off this DSCR underwriting guidelines, that's compacted down to 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you walked off to get a cup of coffee in the middle and it finished before you got back. That's a ton of time saved.
Yeah, that's my side of the couch.
Perfect, Pedram. Thank you. That's right on time. We're right on time with what we need to be doing here. So let me get back with some proof points for everybody here, and we will get you all out of here on time. I didn't have issues sharing that time. That's a lovely surprise. I'm going to check. Pedram, you can see my screen, real results, right?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. So some real results from an anonymous customer that we have. We do not have approval to share their name, but we have approval to share their numbers. They're a mid-market, non-QM private lender with about 170 closings a month, and they have 6 investor counterparties that they have to check against, just like Pedram was showing you there. Row 1 is the appraisal extraction, the first thing that Pedram showed. Before, it was taking them about 20 to 30 minutes per appraisal across 30 to 40 page forms, and they had a huge backlog. After, it takes them, as Pedram showed in the first demo, a minute or less per appraisal with citations linked, and they cleared their backlog in just a couple of weeks instead of multiple quarters. The second row, the multi-investor loan onboarding, Pedram was just showing you the 113 checks that you have to do across different investors. It used to take them 90 minutes to 2 hours, and they would go one investor at a time in spreadsheets. Now it takes them about 17 minutes to do that check that Pedram showed you. That was just one investor. They do it across 6, and it takes them 17 minutes, and it all happens simultaneously, again, with every exception and citation linked. So you can run through the checks. You're moving away from the manual slog of finding data, and you actually get to analyze the data, which is the fun part of our jobs. Final row, portfolio acquisition due diligence, which is something that's kind of an umbrella around everything that Pedram showed. This matters for lenders in the room who are doing whole loan acquisitions. And so before, it would take about 4 to 6 weeks per tranche, and they would outsource that at $150 to $350 to an offshore team per file. And so it would cost them anywhere from $220,000 to $450,000 per tranche, and it would take a month to a month and a half, and this is a process that they had outsourced to an offshore operation. Now, after, the same tranche is batch processed just in a couple of days. And again, citation linked, audit trail. So the cost moves from a per file vendor fee to internal infrastructure. They're using their offshore team to actually analyze, again, instead of manually going through and pulling out information. So these are 3 different use cases and 3 different things that Pedram showed you. But what our mid-market private lending operations customers do is they have all of this run at the same time. So instead of running the appraisal extraction and then the loan onboarding and then the acquisition due diligence, it all runs at the same time with AI agents on your document layer. It's not a pilot, it's not a proof of concept. This is a live engagement at pretty hefty scale. So to wrap up here, I'm gonna bring it home with some math since we all love math. 170 loans per month, about a 1.5 hours saved per file, and about 90, we'll estimate conservatively $90 an hour for the labor costs. So that's about 23 grand a month. And that's a conservative estimate. That's only for the multi-investor loan onboarding. That doesn't even count the appraisal extraction, loan tape population. That can get up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're paying just to get the data how you need it. A lot of time saved, a lot of money saved using Kalena. So if you want to see this on your actual file types with your matrices, you can request a demo on our website, request a demo, kalena.com/request a demo. Bring your appraisal, bring your matrices. We'll run them on your live files. Pedram will probably be the guy that you meet with, so you already have a familiar face in the room with you. We've got a few minutes here for Q&A and chat. I have a few here, so Pedram, we kind of addressed it at the top, but how are we different from, we get a lot, we have a corporate Claude account or we have a corporate ChatGPT account. How is this different?
again, you're working with real data. You need real insight into this real data, and you need to have that at your disposal really, really fast and easy. This is something that, you saw the runs table that I had, and multiple appraisal reports along with their extractions were put in front of me, and I can simply click somewhere and go inside that specific extraction and come back. I personally use Claude. There are great tools, again, when it comes to simple workflows, very straightforward workflows, where you don't have to audit later on or go back and check if the information is correct. Again, you're working with LLMs. You have to make sure some of the numbers that are being extracted, some of the values that are being pulled from your documents actually have substantive, basically they have evidence behind them. So we make sure that you have access to those review levers and at any point, and also make it easy for you. Having the document side by side, clicking on the citation, having the beacon on the document showing you exactly where the information is, it's going to allow you to have the peace of mind that your information is correct.
Cool. Thank you. And we don't have any other questions in the chat, so we will get everyone out of here shortly. The last thing that I'll mention for people is my friend Molly Barr is in the chat dropping some links. She put the demo request link in there if you're interested in seeing this on your files. We have a few other resources. One that I'll mention is our LinkedIn newsletter that we have, the Kalena Brief. Last month, we actually featured some of these workflows on that newsletter. So go there, check it out, subscribe. She just put the link in the chat for you. Again, I'm Connor Longoria with Kalena. This is Pedram Gubati. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.